Welcome to Get Jashed, a conversation series where guests share their stories and how they learn, deal with, practice, screw up, and rise in leadership and communication. I'm your host, Jess Jash, founder and head creator at J-Leigh, where I help impact positive change in high-performance teams. I believe there is more than one way to do leadership and communication, so here we are. If you want to know more about how you or your team can work with me, head to j-leigh, that's leigh.com.au. In the meantime, I hope you enjoy this week's episode. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Get Jashed. I'm really excited to have my friend with me, Katey Harris, for today's conversation. So Katey is the founder of The Other Consultants, a business born out of frustration with business as usual in the persistently short-term focus of marketing and unsustainable, non-regenerative approaches to business. Katey is a former lawyer and sustainable fashion business business owner. Sorry, you might be a designer, who knows?
I wish.
And is a big picture thinker who obsesses over the details, driven by curiosity and an insatiable desire to learn. Her career spans countries and industries, including agency, hospitality, fitness, software as a service, corporate litigation, and retail. So a wealth of experience, you might say, joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm excited for this conversation because it's that time of year, um, at the time of recording, but also at the time that this is going to come out, that people, especially businesses, are feeling a certain way. They're feeling burnt out. They're feeling probably overwhelmed. And we've had many conversations about brand building and mental health and how to navigate that. So I guess just to open is how do you see that showing up for people who run small businesses in particular, and maybe in relation to the comparison that they can sometimes feel in comparison to the big companies?
Yeah, good question. It would be hard, I think, for a lot of small businesses, even medium-sized ones. Obviously, we're entering, as we're recording this, it's Black Friday, which is just a nightmare time of year to run a business because you can't compete. If you're in, say, looking just at marketing, if you're in the ad space, it's hard to compete because everybody is just, this is the most expensive time of year. People start coming in, but then just at another level, you're like, well, maybe as a small business, my prices are set to benefit my community and to make sure I have enough income. But then also, as the business owner, you may not have leverage to even handle a sale, but then people expect it. So now you've got all these competing forces of what's happening in ads, what people want, what people are willing to pay, but what you can actually afford to charge people to then maintain your business and maintain your life.
Mm.
So I have so much empathy for businesses this time of year. It was hard for me, and I know it's going to be hard for them. But I think with regards to your sort of building or nurturing or maintaining your brand during this period, one of the things people can do is just be honest, which is really scary because, you know, a lot of times you feel the pressure to compete with, you know, Black Friday sales, Christmas sales. But then at the same time, if you're a family person, you're like, oh, my kids are now school turn 4. It gets a bit hectic. And just starting to, I think one thing a business owner can do is to be honest about that a bit. You know, say, hey, we're not running a sale, or hey, we are going to cut back our hours because we want to spend time with our family. But that is a privilege to be able to do
Mm.
that. Or at the flip side, saying, have, you know, I'm going to be open on the Saturday for these hours to help you because, you know, when you support local business, you support your local economy and having, I think, more human conversations because that can, from a brand perspective, cut through. I think is,
Mm.
you know, you're not going to get a person to person connection with JB Hi-Fi during their Black Friday sales. But if you might be a local business, you might be able to cut through and build some sort of personal connection. Then, you know, we're a member of this community and it's a struggle for us too. So I don't know if that probably answered that
Yeah,
about
well,
5 different ways.
no, like it's intentionally a broad initial question because there's so many directions and there's so many things floating around this idea. And I think the Black Friday sales are such a perfect example because uh as you say, you know, not every business has the leverage to handle a sale or is, you know, like a small business or even a small medium business is operating at a very different kind of revenue profitability ratio than one of the larger actual companies. And this is something that I've thought about a lot this year, partly more in thought leadership as well, in the sense of, moments of, and I'll admit it, moments of frustration, for example, where people will sort of platform celebrities saying something that like it could be an actor and that that you like, but like an actor saying something that us actual business owners over here have been saying, but because we don't have the same platform, they're not shared as much. And, it's people that you see share it. And there's this frustration of, and for me, it's internally this thought process of this evolving frustration of why don't we see more of that automatic supporting small business in the community as more of that default rather than defaulting to the large business where there is a comparable, like where it isn't just, well, I have to go here because that's what they have, but that comparable service, like what do you think about that difference or that mentality that can go into why people may not automatically yet default to supporting small business in their communities?
From my personal experience, it often comes down to price and convenience.
Mm.
And, as I hate this word, but as consumers, you know, which I think is a horrible word because it just treats humans down to something that just takes. And
Yeah.
we're so much more than that. But as consumers, we go to the first thing we recall. So there's a saying
Mm.
that the biggest search engine is the one between your ears. So if I know that I need to get a air purifier, I might immediately go to Amazon because Amazon's going to be the first thing that comes to mind because they've got a multi-million-dollar ad budget that spreads itself across so omni-channel. I'll see it from the billboard
Mm.
outside to my Prime subscription to your Audible to your Kindle. Like you can't escape it. But I won't necessarily think to then go to I don't know if Godfrey's actually is an electronic store, but the local electronics store or something to buy it because
Yeah.
it's not top of mind. So there is this element of we are, whoever's going to the biggest advertising budget in some way is going to win that awareness
Mm.
game for people. And then you kind of there. Then also the convenience, then usually because they're big, they've got better economies of scale to offer a cheaper product and then offer free shipping. And offer things you're like, oh, I don't even have to get off my couch. I can just sit here and do this and long haul, we're done.
Mm.
That same thing then just chat and goes right over to the social space. So if you notice on Instagram, every third story is an ad. And we are kind of constant, every third scroll is an ad. So whoever's got the biggest budget to that is going to start getting front of mind. Which on the flip side to that, I think you've seen some awesome things over the last couple of years with TikTok, whereas a small business, if you make it engaging, you can still revive or restore your
Mm.
small business. And that, I think over in that sort of marketing channel, you're seeing a lot more of a push to it because they're able to make it a compelling story. They're like, oh, I want to go support this mom and pop bakery down in the country because they've got such a vibe on this on their little content stories. I think for business owners, again as consumers, we kind of look for the path of least resistance, and our brain is
Yeah.
going to take the shortest route. And if the shortest route is telling us to go, just hey, pop on my phone, order this online, we won't necessarily think, oh, I'll walk outside and walk around to the corner. Like where we are right now, we're in Brisbane, it's horrendous. Like the idea of having to go walk outside, get in my car, and then possibly drive through a hailstorm, which
Yeah.
may show up at any minute. It's not that fun. But I think, choosing to help that local and support your thing, it has to be almost like an active practice of like, I
Mm.
know I'm not going to choose convenience because when I keep choosing the convenience, I lose my high street, I lose my main street, I lose my locals. I lose the thing that actually made, hey, I wanted to live in this neighborhood because it had a cute little cafe, it had a cute little store. Like
Yeah.
they all close. And then you hear people bemoan it. It's like, well, if you don't support it, who's going to pay its rent? And then people are like, oh, but it's expensive. I can't. So it's sort of in this, I think, frustrating, self perpetuating cycle. However, that's why brand marketing has come in because you're seeing small businesses kind of surround that, but be like, no, we're going to make our whole brand around being warm, friendly, approachable,
Mm.
neighborhood, community, and build something that people then want to partake in and they'll choose to do. For example, I teach fitness as well. So I'll see people choose our studio over a big corporate gym because they're like, oh, but the people are nice. I want the community.
Oh yeah.
And you say, I think with small businesses where you're like, oh, I'm friends with my local barber shop owner. Like I'm friends with the local barista. Or,
Mm.
but I think, okay, this is probably a bit of a segue, but I think when you're in those small businesses, it's hard to turn off the chatter of, oh, I need to compete with Amazon on an online game. It's like, you will never win that. You'll never win the Google Ads game. You'll never win the SEO. Like, you're not competing with them. Like, don't even
Mm.
pretend you're competing with them. Instead, look at you, be like, what's in my local market now? How do I capture all these people here and get them to come to me instead of just going online, which they'll still do for half their purchases.
Yeah.
But it's
That's actually
challenge.
that's the perfect segue because that was going to be my next question is like from the small business perspective, how do you navigate that? And like and it's I'm a service provider, so I'm not a brick and mortar, so I could have like um not an inaccurate view of this, but I imagine sometimes brick and mortar is a little easier to capture that local community vibe because in most cases you're there in some way visible in front of the community in some way. Like I think about my favorite cafe here. I don't even care. I'll give them a shout out. It's Blue Bear Coffee House in in New Farm.
I
And
know the place. Very good.
it is my favorite. I know the owners and they're delightful. And if they're in, every time I go in, one of the owners, she'll come out and she'll give me a hug. So like there's that personal connection. And guys, don't expect her to do that with everyone if she doesn't know you. But like,
I'm gonna go and be
but
like, Jess told me to give me a hug.
yeah, that's not what I'm saying. But their food is consistently amazing. The service is consistently lovely, whoever is serving you. So the experience itself to me feels like a warm hug. And I also have the reliability of like the good food. Like the good food that I know that I want. I'm autistic, so I have like a food fixation thing where like it has to be exactly like what I'm expecting and what I am going out for. I will travel the 30 minutes of a drive without traffic that it takes to get there just to have breakfast there. Like that's something I would actually enter into their community. So that's like a physical in-person thing. My business and a lot of your business, like for
Yeah.
the other consultants that work is a service. It's a service provided. It's non-location specific. Like for me, I will travel sometimes for clients depending on what we're doing together. Um, how do you, regardless of one or the other, but how with small business owners, if they try to stop competing with the big guys, I feel like that is smart too, because what I offer, they cannot offer, for example. But how do you still kind of cut through? And at this time of year, when they're sort of maybe pulling back and trying to have that balance of life of I want to spend time with my family, or for me, I just want some downtime. I that's the quality of life that I'm looking for, is like having that downtime. How do they kind of, how would you advise them to navigate certain ways of still being visible with that balance of, you talk a lot about work-life balance, which is their own sort of personal experience of that, but how can they navigate that?
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna pull back just a second with that one. I
Mm.
think there's a tendency, and you probably know it yourself, when a founder, somebody starts a business, you go into the business because you love the thing. So in my case, I love helping small businesses because I've been a small business owner and I know how fucking hard it gets. And, I've got a friend who does, fire safety maintenance, and he got into it because he really cares about businesses like are not safe because of
Mm.
some wild things about legislation and making sure that, you're safe. But I was like, you didn't get into it because you love marketing fire safety businesses. You got into it because you
Yeah.
like maintaining fire safety.
Uh-huh.
So I think for especially service industries, there's a, I want to say, it's important, I think, for a lot of owners to recognize, and it's a hard truth of like, you can't do everything and you're not expected to be an expert at everything. Like, be an expert at what you're an expert at. So if you're, say, an expert at HVAC systems, own it, be an expert on it, but recognizing you don't also then have to become an expert on accounting, bookkeeping, reconciliation, marketing, sales tactics, HR, customer service, the whole ecosystem that kind of falls in as a
Mm.
business owner. So when from that whole lens, then we go to marketing. Marketing, I think, as a discipline over the last 20 years has gotten so siloed into being like, well, marketing is digital marketing. So I
Mm.
work primarily with you through my business and last few jobs with B2B service industries. And you'll talk to owners and they'll be like, oh, should I do Facebook ads? I'm like, why the fuck would you run a Facebook ad? Like you sell railway consulting services. Like your
Mm.
target audience is not looking for that ad on Marketplace or waiting for it. It's like if they're on socials, they're doing it probably for their personal life, not their professional.
Yeah.
So when service owners, I think that, you got to still have these sort of short-term things that you would necessarily, which would be like Google ads or putting that. But I think for business owners in that service space, a bigger chunk of your marketing should go to longer term brand building awareness. And this sort of Christmas time of year, Black Friday time of year, when that digital space is like flat, it's like weird
Mm.
urgency marketing and it's super competitive. This is a prime time for that sort of longer term brand building things to set in. So, you gave the example of the cafe, which we all know. I live near
Mm.
it and you see it. But I think if you don't have a brick and mortar, there's still so many ways to get involved. And I think one of the best ones, I think maybe we talked about it, was sponsorship. You
Yeah.
know, I used to live in Hawthorne at the Morningside Panther Stadium. They had all these local businesses that had their signs up. And I know a lot of them didn't have stores, like some of the realtors maybe, but
Mm.
some of them, the HVAC specialists, they often have a warehouse somewhere. It's not in paying a commercial tenancy in Morningside. It's going to be based somewhere with more affordable rent
Yeah.
because brick and mortar is expensive and walk by traffic, you pay an absolute premium for walk by traffic. So when you're in that situation where your warehouse or you're purely online, you can still invest in your community if that you're servicing that community by looking kind of left of field, I guess, where you're like, I'm going to sponsor a sporting event. I'm going to put a car wrap so you can always see me. I'm going to maybe talk to a local cafe and being like, hey, can I put some flyers out?
Mm.
There's sort of other ways to show you're engaged, or, I think a lot of times I've seen it with clients where they do well, it's like school giveaways,
Oh yeah.
the
Yep.
fundraising nights. Well, yeah,
Mm.
you give like a voucher to that. And it's like, again, you're just trying to help continually build front of mind, or, that when I do need a plumber, this is the person I think of. And I think that's where you see it all the time, magnets or getting relationships built with property agents or something. So you're
Oh
kind of
yeah.
always that front of mind. So I think from, a time of year when you're like, I actually just want to spend more time with my family. I just slammed with kids' school stuff. It's really
Mm.
expensive. People are just buying gifts for everybody. They're not buying things for themselves or something. Or now, is the time of year you hope you don't need aircon repair.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
yeah, you hope it's
Facts.
fine.
It's-
That as a business owner, you can use this time to work on that brand building. So
Yeah.
that's things like, you know, you've got an email database. Send them, top 10 tricks to stay cool over summer, keep your energy bill low, like whatever's relevant to them.
Mm.
Where you said, instead of spending my time trying to compete with AI to optimize my SEO or compete with an online sale in an ad space, I'm instead going to just give value back and be like,
Yeah.
you may not need my services right now, but at least you're continuing to receive a sense of value
Hmm.
from me or a sense that I'm relevant to your realm. And I think a lot of people don't want to do it because it's not like the sexiest form of marketing. And it's also not immediate.
Yeah.
And you run an ad campaign, you get an immediate click and an ROI.
You have,
You
yeah,
run a
you have analytics that you can view
yeah.
and you don't know.
So I often tell people brand building, like I'm way more passionate about the long-term marketing because I
Mm.
think it's a lot more sustainable. But you have to be very clear on what your success looks like. So you're
Yeah.
measuring against, I'm going to sponsor a local footy club and I'm going to measure over the next 6 months how many cold inquiries I get. Or
Mm.
I'm going to ask, how do people hear about me? But it's much longer term than,
Yeah.
oh, I spent 10 grand this month on ads and I got 20 grand in sales. You're like, but that's those days of kind of winding down of that quick feedback.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that we're having this conversation, both personally, but also like in a professional context too, because I'm kind of I'm like, do I say this where I know it's going to be recorded and go public? But like, I'm kind of sick
You
of
can always
like,
edit it later.
no, I'm going to leave it in. It's fine because I've probably said this anyway. I'm sick of everything being like AI optimize this and like attach AI to this solution or this service within a business or this function within a business that isn't even like a tech function. Like it's like HR or it's, well-being, which is wild and insane to me. But like I'm kind of sick of that being the solution
Yeah.
because it does make you, as a small business, it does make you kind of automatically and inherently still be competing with bigger companies that have the budget that we're never going to be able to outspend. So the real innovation to me in some of these cases isn't use AI to optimize this. It's exactly what you're saying. It's doing things a little bit differently. That in this case, go back to how things were done when we were kids. Like I know we've spoken a lot about this, off camera, but like I don't know if I've actually said this to you recently, but like in the last couple of months, I've kind of been romanticizing the idea of, oh, remember the 90s where
Yeah.
there was like even in a city, like but there was I remember thinking of like aunties and uncles who had their own businesses and shop fronts, and they were within little complexes, and people would just naturally recommend them because they just got to know, like they're like, oh, you need picture framing done? Go see Ian and Jane at blah, or like you need electronics? Go see Karen and Ross at Retrovision, like they own that one. Like real life examples there, but like, it's like it was this sort of thing where even the service providers had a storefront and had recommendations just from the relationships around them. And I mean, there's a lot about that like my autistic brain hates the idea of like I don't want to sit there for 8 hours every day, but
It's boring.
it's boring. And it's
It
also
gets hard.
like I want to be in my own space a lot of the time. But there is like this romanticism that I've been pondering where I'm like, oh, remember what that used to be like rather than everything online. And it's the explicit thought that I've had where I'm like, oh, I started a business because I want to do this well-being work and this mindfulness work and this coaching and this training and this facilitating that I love doing. I didn't start a business to become a content creator. And I know that that is a part of it for me. And I'm saying that on a podcast that I'm recording in several different modes right now. And that's fine because the podcast was actually like an outlet for me to have conversations with people. That's why it started in 2020. I'm like, let's have conversations. And that serves something for me as well as providing that sort of value for people. But yeah, it has been this thought, and I know I'm not alone in this thought lately. I'll see it online, I'll see it on threads where people are a lot more open, I think, with their actual inner thoughts, not just trying to sell, where they're like, yeah, I'm sick of being a content creator when I just want to be doing the work I love doing.
Yeah. Interesting you said that because I just read this morning that the word of the year from the dictionary is AI slop
Yeah, I saw that too.
because it's like we're exhausted. And I think you're not alone in this. I think, I said to you recently I deleted all my social media, but my algorithm had kind of gone down that rabbit hole of like, I just want to go into the woods and by
Mm,
myself in a house. Like people
mm,
are so fatigued. I think since COVID, it's been this like mounting thing of like realizing the pros and cons of globalization, the pros and cons of this interconnected economy that we've built over the last 150 years,
yeah.
and just this sort of rapid expansion of everything and this sort of overwhelming that you talk to people and you're like, realistically, most people don't want to work 40 hours a week or more than that. But if you go online, you're like, oh, well, you're a failure because you don't have a Mercedes, you don't have a four-bedroom
Mm,
house, you don't have these things, you don't have a vacation. Like you kind of build up this thing of like, oh, you don't have the latest handbag. And then it's again the cycle of you're like, oh, well, in order to keep up with this lifestyle that I'm being sold to over and over online and on entertainment, I have to do all these things. But as we're probably seeing, the harder you work, you don't necessarily earn more, especially in
hmm
like Australia at the moment.
Oh yeah, like
Not
if
keeping
if
up,
if that were
but
true, then a lot of blue collar workers would be the wealthiest people in our communities, and they're just not. Like, a lot of people aren't, despite how hard they work.
yeah,
Nurses would be the wealthiest,
they should
and
be.
they should be, and teachers should be the wealthiest,
Oh my
but
God.
they're not. Like,
Yeah.
so it doesn't, it's this story we've been told also of, sorry, I feel really passionate about this one because, yeah, like it's this story we've been told of. You just got to work hard and then you'll get the things that you want. You'll be able to buy your house. You'll be able to, like have all the things. And it's just not the reality.
No. And the thing I keep coming back to, and I tell clients, I'm like, because I, consult with them on how do you build a brand foundation? How do you do ongoing
Mm,
marketing support? But then I'm like, also, what does sustainability look like to you as an owner?
yeah.
Like, what is your realistically business owner goal? Is it to be the next Bunnings, or is it to be like, actually, I just want to build a comfortable lifestyle that I can like enjoy life with my family and then maybe sell it onwards? You're like, great. So then we're trying to build a system that is not centered on you, that you can sell it and
Mm,
that it has like scalable processes in it that you can step back. But having that realization of like, you know, is your end goal to be like, I want a yacht?
mm,
Or actually, I just want a comfortable little lifestyle here that maybe I can take one trip a year with my family.
yeah.
And but it's hard when there's so much other noise telling you that you should be doing all these other things.
Yeah.
And that, something we've talked about where like in the business space, there is such an obsession with growth. Like
Mm,
as a culture globally, like we worship entrepreneurs. With I'm gonna give a big old air quotes on this one because I'm like, I'm sorry, Elon Musk, you had a lot of things handed to you. I'm American, sorry. A lot of Americans will say Trump's the greatest businessman. I'm like, again, you had a
no.
lot of things handed to you, notwithstanding a 2,000 years of a patriarchal systems. Well,
Yep.
episode for another day. But, we pray at that altar of like,
Mm,
oh, we worship success. Like, oh my God, you're a multimillionaire. You've done so well. You're like, but at what cost? How
mm,
many of those people, like, on their deathbed are like, where's my family? No one
mm.
really cares. Like, cool, I left a bunch of houses. Now my kids can fight over it. Which doesn't happen for everybody. I'm sure there's some very happy stories in this, but I think unlearning that and deprogramming of like what does as a business, as a business owner, what does true success look like to you if you turn off all that noise?
Mm,
And I think it's a very hard thing for people to kind of think. And Christmas, I think, is a good time to realize it because you're like, everyone's around. And it is a
mm,
time where, like, here it's summer break, everybody wants to hang out. So, how do you spend time with your family and your friends and your community and build that? If you're like, oh no, I need to go work 80 hours a week because I have to
yeah.
hit this imaginary goal that this sort of greater pressure is telling me. And I guess
Mm,
not to sort of to say that, notwithstanding, if you do have, existing debts, existing mortgages, and everything, like it is a luxury to step back. So also understanding that for some people you do have to do all that because whether you have
yeah.
to send money back home if you're an immigrant, or if you are an immigrant, you need to pay for it, or if you're like, I've got medical fees, school fees, like
Or you're just trying to get by.
just
Like,
trying to buy, like, yeah, there
yeah.
is
Yeah.
whole things. But I do think no matter what the pressures are, there's ways for you to sort of build a sense of sustainability into it, and
Mm,
sustainability not just in a we use recycled plastics, but in a how do I maintain a sustainable level of growth without getting a divorce, without alienating my
mm,
kids, without losing all my friends, without losing my own mental health, without getting sick, like,
yeah.
and recognizing that it's not, 99% of the time, that's not an overnight thing. That is, you're a marathon, not a sprint. But we
Mm,
live in a society that worships sprints. And yeah,
yeah. I'm not a sprinter either.
no, I was like, I hate running.
I'm like a steady hike. Let's go.
Yeah, slow,
Like
steady, because
good, moderate
what if I'm
pace,
doing
but
it?
like, um, that makes me think of I went to there was a World Congress on Positive Psychology here in Brisbane in July that I went to. And one of the speakers, and I wouldn't be able to tell you off the top of my head who it was because it's in a notebook behind me, buried in that pile of books, but they spoke about how it shouldn't even just be sustainable approaches to well-being. And if we're talking about well-being, I think that also leads to how we run out and build our businesses and how we sort of set goals for our businesses too. And he was saying it's not just a sustainable approach, it's what's the regenerative approach? Because we
Yeah,
need to consider that what we expect to receive, in this case, well-being from, we also need to give back into to regenerate. So, like the very visible, visceral example is like, trees, the obvious example is trees, like what we hope to receive energy from in terms of being out in nature or being on the beach and enjoying the beach and the ocean, we need to sort of give back to. So that's a very like earth-centric version of that, which is so important. But I think it also extends to how we treat our businesses and what we want to get out of it, we also have to regenerate into. And
yeah,
sometimes the focus is so much on, again, my personal perspective on optimize with AI and do all these things and put on a pedestal all of these businessmen mostly who have been given everything that aren't great and like they're good exploiters. They're not great business people. They're just good at exploiting people. put them on a pedestal and then aim to work for a seat at that table that you'll never actually reach,
Yeah,
rather than something that is regenerative, that is meaningful, that is fulfilling personally, but also regenerative, as we've said, into maybe our own communities or maybe what our version of community is, whether that is in an online context. And, it could be for me, in a lot of cases, it's regenerating my ability to go travel to visit the communities that I've had the privilege to connect with because of COVID. But it's hard to sort of, like do that without having that. So it's such a perspective, I think, and it's an important one to sort of bring in of how can we make it regenerative in that way.
100%. And I
Mm.
think this, I guess, ties in really well with brand because I mentioned I'm in the brand space and brand strategy where it's helping businesses position, like right at the
Mm.
beginning, whether you're starting or scaling, like how are you, and you can think of brand as like, what does the customer think of when they think of you? Like, and if you don't define it for them, they'll define it for you.
Mm.
And something a friend and I were laughing about recently was, there's this funny video on Instagram of a comedian talking about brand purpose. And brand purpose is getting like lots of commentary on it because I personally genuinely feel being in the, coming from a sustainability background, every brand should have a purpose because it's what guides you.
Mhm.
Whether your purpose is saving the planet or not is a whole different thing. And that's where it's getting a lot of shit because, I think it was Unilever was like, our mayonnaise is here to bring happiness and joy to everyone. You're like, your mayonnaise brand. Like, that's a little too lofty. Like, let's bring it down a bit.
Yeah, like it's a little too far-fetched to actually
Yeah,
make it like relevant and realistic to what you're selling or
100%.
offering or providing. Yeah.
And then because we live in a world where it's like black and white, no gray, it's all of a sudden been like, oh, the brand purpose is obsolete. You don't need it. And you're like, oh, no, like you
Mm.
still need it. I think especially as a small business owner, you're like, you have so many things happening and distracting you that it's like, let's clarify that you one thing to focus on. Tied into that, nine times out of 10, you see a purpose or mission that's like, we care about our people. Like our purpose is to help our people. And as far as I'm concerned, like that's just words on a piece of paper,
Hmm.
unless you look at it from that regenerative lens and you're like, well, what does that actually mean? Like if our purpose is to provide this superior technology that makes, you know, easier to do these things, a really bad example of a purpose statement. And the way we do it is by supporting and caring for people, then I'm like, well, you better live that out. So
Yeah.
a regenerative sense, you say like, okay, we're gonna look at our full systems. This is not gonna just be
Mm.
an exercise in corporate comms and a marketing slogan and a thing we pop on, underneath our logo is a tagline. It's like, no, we're gonna have robust parental leave for moms and
Mm.
dads. We're gonna have, you know, that right to turn off is going to be paid attention to. It is
Yeah.
capped at 38 hours. It's sort of all these wider systems that encourage your team to flourish.
Mm.
And I'm not an HR person, not a change management person, but I'm like, I have had staff before and I'm friends with them, 15 years later, some of the closest people I know, people who worked for me. Cause I'm like, well, you're not here to just make me money. You're here to one, help me grow my business, but I also want to help you grow. If you want to grow in a
Mm.
career in this case, it's fashion, then I'm like,
Yeah.
how do I help you? Because we're in this, you know, what's that word? Mutually beneficial ecosystem
Hmm.
of we're
Yeah,
working together to regenerate and build something, but I can't just take from you. Like I've got to give
yeah.
you something back.
Yeah.
And then you're going to also give to me and take from me. And
Hmm.
that's fine because we're all working now towards, in this sort of system, towards this bigger goal that is clearly defined and it's guiding everything we do rather than
Mm.
just being, this is what we say in our ad campaigns. This is
Yeah,
truly felt and believed and lived by. And I think it's
it's
for humans too. Like that's what ikigai and that whole thing of your individual purpose can be
mm.
translated to a business setting, but you gotta work to it.
Yeah, you've got to work for it. And it is this like it's a reciprocal relationship. And I think that's where, and I see it on the leadership side as well, like where, sometimes people will be like, well, why should I like in terms of hire this service for my team? Like, why should I? And it's like, well, because the perspective is, well, they're hired to do a job, so they're paid to do a job. So that's the reciprocity. And it's to me, it's exactly as you're saying. It's because we're in relationship with each other when we are in, like, they may get money for the job they do, but you're also in relationship to each other. So I feel like there is almost a responsibility on both sides, but I feel like there's a responsibility to show up to that relationship, not
And I think
just, you know, that because then there's not actually anything being built or regenerated.
I had a friend once say to me, she's like, a job is like you're exchanging time for money. And
Yeah.
I'm like, agree, but also like sad about it a bit because I'm like, we spend more time at work than we do with our family
Hmm.
and especially after we finish school. Like you will spend
Yeah.
way more time with your coworkers.
Yeah.
But the wider system of business, probably discourse on capitalism now, treats it as an exchange where you're like, I'm exchanging
Hmm.
time for good. Clock in, I'll pay you for it. Like you clock in, you do this thing per the contract, that's it. You're like, but small business could do better. And I
Yeah.
think when you're in the cog of like a big, this is your multinational, you're stuck with the system, and that system is probably not going to shift anytime. It's going to be a hard shift. And you're
Mm.
seeing it with like kind of these ESG policies coming in and the DEI initiatives, like they're pulling back and forth on those.
Yeah.
That from a small business perspective, you have that opportunity to have this massive point of difference. If you're like, say you are that local service industry that's got a warehouse somewhere, you're like, well, you can, look for your apprentices at your local school. Like, especially here,
Yeah.
they do TAFE, they do that. That, you don't have to go far afield. You can start to try to build back and give back because
Mm.
I think we really discount in an era of social media. Like, we've really discounted the power of just like peer to peer, person to person.
Yeah.
Like, we got so used to being sold to by influencers. Then we now like the more authentic influencers and stuff, but still a lot of them have production teams. I'm like, well, actually, that person you talk to, like, they're real. I mean, they're never lying to you. But it also wasn't just
Yeah.
AI generated. And they're maybe not necessarily getting a brand deal behind it. But,
Mm.
there's a power in sort of looking at someone in the eye and having a conversation, but we're losing that. And you see people sort of losing that ability to do that. But you're like, but that's humans are social creatures. Like we're made
Mm.
for this. We're made to.
Yeah. It's
And
not
yeah,
meant to be transactional. It's to me,
no,
it's not fulfilling. That's why the whole, like paid by the hour approach doesn't motivate me. Like it's like it's not how I work for starters personally. Like it's like, oh no, I work like not even literally like the structure of my work mentally. It's not how I work. It's like, oh, I work based on project. My brain works on project, not per hour.
yeah. And I'm
Like,
like, I'm giving you a thing at the end. Who cares if it takes me 1 hour or 20? That's on me
yeah,
to
it's
manage my time. But
hence why I went into business, right? Like so, like but that's a personal preference. But yeah, it's so transactional, it's so empty and it we wonder where we not all of us, I guess, but we wonder where like community went and how do we do it? I think these conversations and these reminders that you're sharing are ways that we can still contribute to community, even if, we're a service provider or even if we're on an online service provider in many
sure.
cases, there's still ways we can contribute. Like for me, it would be um like I have this desire to you mentioned sports sponsorship. Like my niece plays representative basketball and it's like, oh, I'd want to sponsor her team because that speaks to my value. Like, so does my nephew play, but like it also speaks to my values in supporting girls in sport. Like so it's like, oh, I want to support girls in sport because they are underfunded. So there's a value there that I can follow through and live out, but also then it supports in this case a family member, like it supports a community that I value because she's in that or my nephew might be in that or it's these ways of connecting still that give it all a point. Like I always
Yeah,
say, like this won't be the title of my first book because plans changed. But I always say like like a title of my book is going to be "What's the fucking point?" And I was like,
yeah.
yeah, it's this,
That's a
it's
great example
something.
about sports. Like I remember playing softball in the US,
Mm.
and my friend's dad sponsored our team for a few years.
Oh,
He developed, I think, one of the most award-winning pre-planned communities, like that situation.
yeah,
But I'm like, what a now I look back and I'm like, what a smart marketing endeavor. For a number of years, you took like a group of girls, sponsored their team, it's on the back of the uniform.
yeah,
Like they all have parents,
yeah.
they've all got grandparents that are looking either to downsize or move or everything. And you're constantly getting in front of them and saying, not only we do, we're not just this developer that's going to do these things. Like we
Mm.
actually do care about what our kids are doing, what their friends are doing, what this sort of girls in sports are doing. I was like, "Hmm, even if you don't actually care about it, you're now giving this perception of, hey, we
Yeah.
are more than just this thing. We are actually invested in this. We're invested in
Yeah.
Tucson. Like we are
Mm.
not just here to just build something and take money from you. Like we're actually here to give back to our community." And I think it's powerful, but it's just discount. I think it's been discounted over the last few years. And
Yeah.
post COVID, I think that's one of those common things you hear is like, I want community, I want connection, I want community. I'm like, but community is so uncomfortable. Like to
Mm.
show up for community often is can be very uncomfortable. And we as people, I think, don't like being uncomfortable anymore.
Yeah, and I wonder if that I I'm laughing because I resonate with both sides. Like I actively teach and try to actively practice like you learn to be uncomfortable in the discomfort. Like that is a part of our work, but also there is a big part of me that's like and maybe it's just after, the year 2025 where I'm like I'd like a little comfort.
Yeah, I
Like
don't.
so like I wonder if it's like, whether it's a COVID hangover or just because there are bigger things in the world that have also just been persistently rough and people's almost windows of tolerance are just not getting a chance to rebuild or to
No.
reopen again because there's just this onslaught one form or another, right?
Yeah.
And people are like craving comfort, but it's also we don't get to get that without going through sometimes uncomfortable things like building community. Like it's
Yeah.
like there's ways that create that comfort that mean a certain kind of uncomfortable thing that isn't necessarily the onslaught that we've been dealing with that is beyond our power.
Yeah. And I'll say since 2020, it's just felt like, especially if you're online, it has felt like
Mm,
crisis after like permanent crisis mode. Like I said to you before this, when I got off social media, because I was like, I'm just getting too stressed. I mentally
mm,
cannot handle constantly being told that we've passed 1.5, the earth is dead, we've really fucked the planet, and my home country is going to go to war. I was like, oh, I just can't.
yeah.
And my adopted country is just in a cost of living, ongoing cost of living crisis.
Yeah. And climate crisis.
Yeah.
Like,
And I found by kind of turning off that noise, it was like, oh, I don't have to just consistently worry about all these oncoming crises that
mm,
may happen everywhere around me. And instead, I can focus on what's in front of me and the people around me and being like, okay, how do I support myself, my family, my friends, and start to build this bigger thing of, in the case of my business, it may take me 5 years to be more successful, but I'm happy with that slow growth because
mm,
it's allowing me to actually focus locally and say, the last 2 years, my business has been fine because I've got a big network, but it's not here, it's like all
yeah.
over Australia. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, how do I do this? And I'm like, it's uncomfortable. It's like, oh, I've got to go, not, I've got to go, well, yeah. Some cases, it's like I've got to get in the car and drive across the Story Bridge, which anyone in Brisbane will know it can be painful to go support somebody that's over on the other side of the river. But I'm like, you're my business of choice for this. And I'm going to
Mm,
go make myself that slightly uncomfortable of getting out of my house, going
yeah.
out,
Yeah.
or I'm going to go into a co-working space to try to network, or I'm going to go to
Hmm.
networking events
Yeah.
and try to have these conversations that don't just exist in the digital space, instead exist in
Yeah.
your life. But as you know, sometimes it's a bit like not not that fun
Well,
to sit and talk to people
well,
always. And
no, and it's all of those reasons, like you mentioned, like in Brisbane at the moment, it's swampy as hell and like all day, and then there's a hailstorm in the afternoon, and it's usually afternoon, evening. So like in
yeah,
summer, I tend to not make as many plans after 2 o'clock. Like that, I grew up here, so I defaulted to that where I was like, yeah, you just don't do it because
yeah,
but like you still move through discomfort. Like I said, like I'll drive half an hour. It's still the si same side of the river for me, but I'll drive half an hour to my favorite cafe because it's just that good. And I will do that happily. And I will navigate, trying to find a park there because it's where it's in, like it's in a city. So it's sometimes hard to find a park, but I will always find a park and I will do it because it's worth it to me, because it feels good. But I also feel like I'm a part of the world. And like you said, like, we'll go to like a co-working space, which is where we met, or go to networking events for me, it's related to that co-working space because there's an element of comfort there because there's familiarity, but also, but that's a that's a train ride and then a walk in that same swampy heat. Like, and it's like,
so gross.
It's so gross, but I will still plan and do it intentionally because it feels like it helps me step away from being just behind like in my home office that I adore. Like I love my space. I love creating the energy of a space, but also it helps me step away from just trying to speak at the world from exactly this spot through my computer and actually be in the world, even if I'm doing similar work, I'm existing in the world and in the community that I want to exist in. That is the
Yeah.
whole point of me trying to, build a business that gives me an element of success that allows me to do that. It's like, well, I can do that now. I can I can start doing that now.
And I think that's the key thing is like you sort of define like what success looks like for you. And then
Mm,
all of your business structures and your marketing and everything is based around like, how do I build this version of success?
yeah.
Recognizing like, and I think that's one of the hardest things for people to accept is that like there's always a trade-off. Like
Mm,
time is the most valuable commodity in my opinion. So I'm like,
yeah.
so you know, you could probably work double time and probably, hustle even harder, earn more money, get the
Mm,
car and everything you want. You're like, but what gave? And is it worth
mm,
that? And I think for business owners, that is just it comes back to purpose, like individually and your business to come back to like when there's this trade off, like, is it worth it?
mm,
Is it, you know, what does that version of success as you and as a business in that, it's a luxury to kind of have some time off, but how does it work? Like sort of
yeah.
shifting a bit left on this one.
Yeah.
My previous business was brick and mortar, and it was 7 days a week, and it was really hard. But it was like, okay, for me as a person, super big value to me is minimizing cost. Personally, it's like, okay, so I'm gonna try to. I will make myself more tired by taking the extra time to go drive further away to do bulk grocery shopping or to
Mm.
take the extra time to cook when I'm like, I'd actually rather just lie on the couch and watch a Korean drama and take a nap. But I've had to put myself in that position of like, I'm so burnt out and tired because I work seven
Yeah.
days a week, but also it is so important to me to do this that I'm going to make myself uncomfortable and go to these things and support these
Hmm.
local businesses because I'm going to be devastated.
If they're
Anybody
not
from
there
Paris that
anymore.
listens to this, like, if Kakula's closes, we'll all just be heartbroken. Or Restore closes, but you're like, so you've got to put yourself also, I think, as a business owner, remember that like everybody's got to be a bit uncomfortable
Yeah.
and everybody's going to have to make that equation. And price may not be the thing that always brings them in, but you
Mm.
know, we get stuck on that. And I remember it's like, well, they might come to you because you make them feel safe. You make them feel like you're a valuable part of the community. They know you're always going to deliver. They know you'll
Yeah.
always be competitive. Not even that necessarily, but they like,
Yeah.
they know the people behind the brand.
Mm. Yeah. It's really, I had this thought yesterday, actually. It was a memory of like a post I'd put up years ago, a couple of years ago, and it was the same thought, really. And it's like, whatever decision you make, you're always saying no to something else. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like accepting that, and like, because that is just the nature of making decisions. For example, it's the same as if I choose to get extra sleep in the morning because I need it, it means I'm saying no to, I don't know, like you wouldn't do this. Some people do. You wouldn't do this here in Australia, like in Queensland in summer because sunrise is at like 4 a.m. But, it's like it means I'm missing out on a beautiful experience of sunrise, but I'm getting sleep that nourishes me, or the reverse of that. So it's almost, and I say that example because it's benign because it's really about what serves you right now, and we're going to go through seasons of that. And like you said, like you made a choice where you felt tired and fatigued and exhausted, but in that season there were things that served your values more that felt like it was worth the trade-off,
Mhm.
you know,
100%.
and for me, like I think, yeah, I think like this year in particular, I've been doing my master's and I've been running a business and I've been writing a book and, just navigating life in general. And there's been an element of, okay, I need to just let myself be obsessed with my work because that feels good. And it's going to feel
Yeah.
really good when I complete, the master's, when my book is published and when I've built the business to be more sustainable and regenerative for me so that I can contribute more. So it's like that has sort of informed how I've been making decisions, especially this latter half of the year, like this second half of the year, where I'm like, oh, I'm just going to be obsessed. And that means maybe working like not necessarily working more, but well, yes, but maybe like not trying to extend myself in every area.
Yeah.
Even though community and connection is really important to me, I'm just going to be real, have to be really specific. And that is just where it is because I need to, because I'm working more, I need to take care of my energy where I can.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the season I'm in, but it's going to come around where it's like, oh, I'm going to have more of a social season. Oh, I'm going to do, like
Yeah. And I think
it,
in small business, we all know it's either like feast or famine.
mm,
Like, there's those periods where like I had it, I think earlier this year, it was like 4 projects, like just
yeah.
kept overlapping. And I was like, so there's 3 or 4 months where it was like there was no break.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I know that this feast will end and we'll come into a famine period. But it'll
Yeah.
be really, really quiet for a while. And
Mm,
then I'll just do other things during that quiet period or just focus on, my case, I've got retainers. So those are the ones, projects. And
yeah.
I think I think that's one of the probably mental health challenges of being a business owner. If you're like, it's not consistent, like you are constantly riding a wave.
Mm,
And in addition to the business wave of that, if you're of a certain age, it's like you're going to have school age kids maybe, and you're going to have aging parents maybe.
mhm.
So you're going to have all the life wave
Yeah.
and navigating that. Like, oh, I have so much empathy for business owners. I'm like, it's so hard. But if you try to then tune out all that other stuff and just be like, nope, I'm just going to focus on this thing, like it'll
Mm,
come crashing at that door anyways. Like,
yeah.
so you need to be slightly aware. But yeah, I said time, something gives. And if you give absolutely 100% everything to your business, what's looking up? The other stuff's still there. It hasn't didn't go
Exactly.
away.
Yeah.
But how do you portion that? And I think, because looping it back to marketing,
Mm,
the biggest thing I tell my clients, I'm like, you can't do everything at once. Like, you've got to pick because not only is your financial budget probably limited, but your emotional budget is limited. So if you know that as a business owner, in your case, you're like, I need to heavily focus on pipeline development and sales, not
mm,
necessarily long-term brand building. All I can do for that is the podcast. That's all the like
yeah.
time,
Hmm.
and time is money situation that I have to give to that. And that's okay. You don't have time to do that, right? Substack,
Yeah.
make videos, TikTok. It's like, no, something has to give. And
Mm.
it's hard when your brain, you're competing with like, some wellness guru that has a production team behind them and can do everything. And
And
someone's
then like you got
ghostwriting
to be on
everything.
this and this and this and this, and it's like I just can't do everything.
Yeah. And I found it so interesting when I talk to clients where I'm like, you can't, like, you can't, you do not have the budget to do everything. So let's just do one thing right. And
Mm,
then once that's working, like I have one client in ecom, and I'm like, let's just first off nail your brand first. Let's get some consistency and organic because that's free. Then let's look at the email because we own that. Then let's look at paying for ads. Like let's
yeah.
just get
Yeah.
one thing at a time versus when you've spread yourself thin, everything is kind of shit.
Mm,
Or like I probably shouldn't be so proud of this, but like my most, I think, proudest moment of a project was doing a brand strategy for a client and positioning. And the process of doing that uncovered all these operational challenges. And they're like, well, we're actually not going to use you in a retainer because we need to fix this. I'm like, fucking great. Like, don't put lipstick on a pig. Like,
yeah.
fix your systems because that's what the brand, this positioning experience has shown
Yeah.
that, you've got weaknesses operationally. So put the money there. See you in a
Mm.
year. And I was so happy about that. And I was like, well, I just got no work out of that.
But it's this,
But hey,
and I
but it's,
think,
honest, like if you want to continually serve your community as the best version of your business
yeah.
and, you're going to spend a limited budget on radio ads, which for them makes sense, do that. Get your thing focused. So then people want to refer to you. People want to support you because they know you'll
Mm,
deliver, not just because they'll say you'll deliver, you actually do. And
yeah.
that is technically traditional marketing, but marketing now is like Facebook ads. And you're like, it's not.
Yeah.
Marketing is how do you grow your business? Your
Yeah.
marketing strategy is your business strategy. Exactly it.
Yeah.
And it's just not, they're kept so far apart. And you're like, but it is like this for you as a growth mechanism.
Mm,
Ultimately, long term, like you want people to know about you. And like,
yeah.
I'm on this for this because we're friends and for a similar reason.
Yeah.
And I'll sit and yap for hours about marketing to people for free because I'm like, when you do need it, I hope you think of me.
Mm, yeah.
But
And that's exactly it. Like to your point, you mentioned it, like I have the podcast because I can't do everything. I love writing, but I'm already writing something else.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't do all of that and do that well and do that well and do this. And the podcast is a way for me to connect with people and have conversations that I find interesting, which is regenerative for my energy, but also it helps me repurpose content. And
Hmm.
that's like cool. That means that I'm ticking certain boxes where I have the social posts going out because they're mostly clips from the podcast, but they're valuable there. And then there's the value out of, I want business owners, small business owners to listen to this when it comes out because it's going to come out before Christmas, before the holidays. And it's such an important time to really consider that, especially in setting up strategy for the new year and ahead. So it's like, oh, I want people to get value out of this. And I've had people come to me, like, or clients come back and say, oh, it's because I saw that keep popping up that I kept thinking of you. And it's like, great,
Yeah.
like
Consistency.
reciprocal. Awesome, because I
Yeah.
want them to get the value. So I want it to be valuable, but also it's my little way as a small business owner to just try and build that brand awareness, if you will, and be like, yep, remember this? This is what I talk about. Remember me? This is what I talk about without having to create so many different types of content all at once.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think brand awareness is just, it's so discounted. Like with so much focus on that. I hate the language of the funnel because I think the funnel is broken
Yeah.
personally now. So I'm
Yeah.
like, how many times have you just gotten an app for something you clicked and bought? Like you had no awareness
Mm,
prior to that. You're just like, oh, that's cute. And that's definitely more retail than like, not many people impulse buy. I don't know why I keep coming back to HVAC because I'm hot, but
yeah.
I think an era where there's so many things you can just
Mm.
continually get from someone's awareness, especially for your services. Because like 99% of the time, they don't need you when they see the thing or hear about you.
Oh
You just
yeah.
need to keep aware in their mindset for when they do need you in 6 months.
Mm.
And I find for mine, I'm like, I have anywhere from 6 to 12 month lead times to get some clients in. And usually there's a fair bit of, because I don't mind, like a lot of free knowledge given out. And
Mm.
if I would objectively look at myself, I'd be like, oh, I could use that knowledge and this thought leadership and write more pieces for my Substack, share on my LinkedIn, probably just get on TikTok and talk about it because that algorithm will connect me to people. But then I'm like, well, I personally don't want to because that's not how I want to spend my limited free time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
I would rather just go have those conversations like with you and we've had privately with other people, with previous clients. So I'm like, let's just talk to each other like, we're humans.
Mm.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
the marketing industry on LinkedIn is like, oh, I just don't want to dip into it.
Yeah.
And then I see, we've talked about before, like, personal versus professional brand. Like I could go spend time creating content for my professional brand and become a pseudo content creator. But the things that I like in my personal brand side, I'd actually rather talk about those more
Mm.
because it's not that I like them more, but I enjoy talking about them more. Or
Yeah.
in the case of wellness and fitness, I'm like, the algorithm's going to like that content more.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, how do you? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm only going to pick one because it's more important to me to have time, being able to spend time with my husband and spend time talking to my mom every day and like being there for my stepkids and making sure my cat doesn't eat my fish at this point. That's happening in the background. He's like trying to climb up.
Oh
Like that's just, and
no.
I think this is like, coming into summer, Christmas, it's such an important one to remember. Like
Mm.
anecdotally, last year I went back to the US for Christmas and I'd happily kind of forgotten about how time off works there. I was like,
Mm.
my brother's a lawyer. He could pretty much fly in the day before. Whereas Australians, we've been off since like the 17th.
Yeah.
Like, and Australia's pretty much on holiday till Australia Day. Because when
Yeah.
I talk to my friends in the States and they're like, oh no, I'm working Christmas Eve. Like these are all still corporate lawyers. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you were lucky to have those 2 days off. And I'm like, well, wow. Like,
And it's wild to me. This
yeah,
is a side note, I guess, before we wrap up. But yeah, it is wild to me because in the US, it is more common to like be catching flights somewhere to go home for Christmas or to go somewhere. I'm like, but you don't have time.
you
Like,
don't. No,
what are you doing? I don't understand.
yeah. It's really hard. And I think it's hard because I probably view business in Australia even like through this lens of growing up in the States and doing corporate litigation in the States and just seeing the
Mm,
amount of overwork and this idea of you live to work. And then like, you're pretty much held together by stress, 5 hour energy drinks
Mm,
and probably some other recreational things.
yeah.
And I'm like, but why? Like, I remember when I quit my job, I was like, I see my future. I have a massive house and
Hmm.
that's it. And like 10 cats. Like, I don't have time to date. I don't have time to have a social life. I don't
Yeah.
have time to actually bring things into my life that bring me joy. So I'm going to take a massive pay cut to go be a bar manager and just
Mm,
do what I like, which is talking to people, trying to get them to try new something other than a New Zealand Sauv Blanc. No offense, great
mhm.
drink, but there's other white wines. And I remember when I did it, it was like this massive shock to everybody because I'm like, I
Yeah.
just took a third of my salary. But I was like, oh, I have time. I have time to
Mm,
enjoy my life. And yeah, I don't realizing, I didn't need the massive wardrobe and all the things in there. I didn't need the fancy stuff. I was like, I'm actually quite happy with this tiny little life that's given me the most valuable thing back, which was time
mm,
to say, hey, how can I be part of my community? How can I share knowledge? How can I
yeah.
build relationships when I'm not just nose down grinding?
Mm,
Because especially at that time, I was like, well, I've got a mortgage, but I don't have school fees. I don't have any pressing bills other than the bills I create for myself, which is like
yeah.
handbags. Um, but yeah, I think it's a really hard. What I've sort of found in the last decade is there's a lot of deep programming you've got to do for your brain of like, what does success look like to me as an owner, as a business? And success, is it just defined by a financial summary, or is it
Mm,
defined by my lifestyle and the presence of, am I around for when my friends are having marital problems, am I there to have that fun play with
yeah.
them? Or am I like, no, I'm sorry, I'm busy writing a thought leadership piece for my LinkedIn for my like 10 followers to maybe engage with?
And I think and I
No,
think
gonna.
like there is definitely the balance of, the financial success can give us the resources to then be there more, but it's sort of we're not talking about just at the survival level. We're talking more about, you know, beyond that in terms of the growth plan and that projection plan that a lot of businesses have and will do and will have, which I like the process of setting goals, so I get a lot of enjoyment out of it, but it is still that real deep work of going, okay, well, what is the financial goal, but what does that actually allow me to do?
Yeah,
And what is that, the fulfilling part of that, not just the the numbers in the bank, but what does that feeling give me that gives me energy to then go forth with?
yeah. And I think I
Mm.
was reading about the thing with money mindset where you're like, there's often a sense of you don't have a sense of what's enough.
Mm.
And like you kind of get started like, oh, maybe I have enough, but I'm scared to spend, so I got to keep doing things.
Mm.
And again, I think these are all like luxury positions to have and mindsets, but really kind of paring it back, like, I don't earn a lot, and I'm lucky to have like I'm in a relationship, so my partner does, like we've got two incomes. But I'm like, there's been massive trade-offs of like we don't own a
Mm.
home. Like I don't foresee it owning a home in Brisbane anytime soon. We have one car.
Yeah.
Like I, for a lot of personal reasons, don't really shop. Like, and if I do, it's secondhand. I like cooking. Like, we sort of made a lot of trade-offs of we
Yeah.
don't go out to dinner a lot because I've done the flip side where it's like, we worked all the time and we earned money and then we never saw each other. And
Yeah.
lo and behold, that expensive wedding was a waste of money. So I think really kind of it's hard to get in this, especially in a business where you're like, oh, I've got to go be on social media for my business, but then you're kind of sold this toxic story, and it's like it's a
Yeah.
big clusterfuck. And there's no solution. I think the key thing of like, there's not a black and white thing. It's not a solution. It's just where's your shade of gray of like,
Yeah.
what does your success for your business look like for you if you consider these wider, regenerative, sustainable, holistic factors, because your business isn't a silo as an owner. Like
Mm.
your husband's and the wife is involved, your boyfriend's involved, your parents are involved, everybody's touching it
Yeah.
in some way. So what does it? And if this is a time of year when you want to really pull back and focus on your family, like just do it. Like I'm also like, again, you're never going to compete on the online ad space. Like
Mm.
I was talking to the guy who does Facebook meta ads for my clients, and he's like, it doesn't even matter what industry you're in. Like it is just flooded. So you're like, this is
Mm.
not the time to really try to do it. So you can do things development activities that are, whether it's, writing your year of content
Yeah.
for December, January. So you got all your blogs done for the year.
Mm.
And if you're not a good writer, do the bare bone thing of like just word vomit what you think you want to talk about it. Then you use AI to be like, refine this for grammar and syntax, apply
Mm.
this tone of voice, and then proofread it. Just for the love of God, proofread it again at the end.
Please.
Like, I read something the other day and it had at the bottom and it had the suggestion of like, would you like to tighten this
Oh
up and refine? And I was like,
no.
proofread and delete that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of a funny one. I'm like, for the most part, as we said about the AI, I'm like, I think it can be such a good tool for business owners, but it's using it to the right way, not to
Yeah.
necessarily take over things. But I deal with so many people. I'm like, writing's not your strong point.
Yeah.
Lots of run-on sentences. AI can fix that for you, but
Mm.
just proofread it again. Like,
Yeah.
just proofread it. Like, you can use this time of year for that. Like, set yourself up for next year.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly it. Well, I think there's a lot for people to noodle on there and to let percolate. And I think it's so important, all of that conversation. And yeah, just that wrap up of the reminder that it's not always just going to be a copy and paste. It's never going to be a copy and paste.
Yeah,
There's going to be shades
yeah,
of gray that we need to allow for where we're at in our lives and what is most important in that moment but also considering the long term, not just the quick sort of tick the box fix of, oh, I'm doing the right thing. It's like, but is that actually building the way that you want to
yeah.
and building successfully? So with that, if people are interested in any of your work and where they can find or connect with you, where can they do that? A website or anything
I
else?
did my website, theotherconsultants.com.au, which I sporadically post on. I have a Substack, Classic Katey, which again I sporadically post on, which will probably be less about brand and more
Mm.
about, I think, life.
Mm.
That sounds vague. But yeah, life and business. Um, yeah, I'm pretty lazy on all the other channels because again, I
Yeah.
deleted them all off my phone. So, but I probably will do dipping back into Instagram because I do have a pretty solid following there and a lot of friends.
Mm.
I said, don't post content, but then I have very robust DM conversations going on in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And I'm always happy to chat with anybody. I don't care if I don't know you. If you've got a question, I am more than happy to talk about things because
Awesome.
I just want to say, I was like, again, having had a brick and mortar small business and realizing how hard it is and how much people need help, but you can't afford senior help full time. Like, that's why I do what I do. Because I'm like, I know people just sometimes need 3 hours of a conversation to be like, am I on
Mm.
track? What am I doing? What can I do right? It's like, I'm like, if that'll help you, like, I will happily do those anytime because I'm like, I know how hard it is. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's lonely. You're doing too many different things that the last thing you necessarily do is like, how do I grow? How do I grow in whatever way I want to grow?
Yeah.
And that's sort of my passion. But yeah, I'm more likely to have a conversation than you have things to read or watch. So yeah, please
I
go to the
love that.
website,
Yeah.
find me online, send me a
I'll
message.
I'll include all the links as well in the show notes so then people can find you and find any of those avenues easily. But thank you so much for your time
Thanks,
and for
Jess.
joining us.
Thank
Oh yeah,
you.
such a valuable conversation for all of us, but also at this time of year, I think when we're kind of at that peak of have I done enough? Am I doing enough? Do I still have stuff to do, but I also need to wind down and I need to, and we're at that sort of reflection time of the year too. So
Yes.
thanks for sharing.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thanks for listening to Get Jashed. If you dig these conversations, please subscribe and share a review. If you want to know more about how you can dive deeper into these topics for yourself, head to j-leigh.com.au/courses. You can also follow me on Facebook and YouTube by searching j-leigh and Instagram at j_.leigh to see the full videos of these episodes and keep up to date with what's going on in our world of communication, emotional intelligence, and well-being.